There comes a moment in life when you realize something terrifying. You have spent years trying to be liked by people who were never truly satisfied with you. You said yes when you wanted to say no. You stayed silent when you wanted to speak. You changed yourself, your dreams, even your personality, just to avoid disappointing someone. And somehow, the more you tried to make everyone happy, the more unhappy you became. But what if the life you desperately want is waiting on the other side of one decision? The decision to stop explaining yourself, stop chasing approval, stop begging to be understood. The Stoics understood something most people discover far too late. The moment you stop living for other people's approval, you finally become free. Hello everyone, welcome to the Stoic Hypnosis channel. In this video, we will explore what really happens when you stop trying to please everyone, and why the people who once controlled your emotions may suddenly lose their power over you. And by the end, you may realize that the person you were trying so hard to become was never the person you were meant to be. Now, let's get started. Part 1. The Trap of Living for Other People. There is a quiet prison that almost nobody talks about. It has no walls, no locked doors, and yet millions of people spend their entire lives trapped inside it. It is the need to be accepted. You wake up thinking about what people expect from you. You make decisions based on how others might react. You hesitate to speak because someone might judge you. You hide your true feelings because you are afraid of disappointing someone. And slowly, without realizing it, you stop asking yourself one simple question: what do I actually want? Instead, you ask, what will they think? Will they be upset? Will they still like me? Will they think I'm selfish? This is how you lose yourself. Not in one dramatic moment, but through thousands of tiny compromises. You give up your boundaries to keep the peace. You abandon your dreams to avoid criticism. You become available to everyone while becoming a stranger to yourself. And the most painful part? People may still not appreciate you. You can spend years being kind, understanding, patient, and accommodating, and someone can still call you selfish the moment you finally say no. This is where the Stoics offer a brutal but liberating truth. You were never given control over other people's opinions. Marcus Aurelius understood that your peace cannot depend on something outside your control. Other people may misunderstand you, they may criticize you, they may walk away. You cannot control any of that. But you can control whether you betray yourself just to prevent it. And perhaps this is the first step toward freedom. Not becoming cold, not becoming selfish, not stopping yourself from caring, but finally understanding that you can care about people without surrendering your entire identity to their approval. Because the moment you stop needing everyone to approve of you, you begin to hear your own voice again. And sometimes, that voice has been waiting for you for years. Part 2. When other people's opinions control your life. Most people think they are afraid of failure, but often they are not. They are afraid of being judged for failing. That is why so many people live carefully. They choose the safe career. They stay in relationships that no longer feel alive. They hide their ambitions because someone might laugh at them. They pretend everything is fine because admitting the truth might disappoint someone. And eventually, they become experts at living a life that looks good from the outside while quietly dying on the inside. Think about how much of your life has been shaped by a simple sentence: what will people think? It sounds harmless, but repeated enough times, it becomes a cage. You begin measuring your worth through reactions. If someone praises you, you feel valuable. If someone ignores you, you question yourself. If someone criticizes you, you spend hours replaying their words in your mind. And suddenly, a person who may not even know your struggles has the power to ruin your entire day. The Stoics saw this as a dangerous mistake, because when you allow another person's opinion to determine your emotional state, You have handed them something they never earned: control over your mind. Epictetus taught that we should distinguish between what belongs to us and what does not. Your intentions belong to you. Your choices belong to you. Your character belongs to you. But someone else's opinion? That belongs to them. You cannot force another person to understand your heart. You cannot force them to recognize your sacrifices. You cannot force them to see your value. And the harder you try, the more exhausted you become. There is a strange freedom that appears when you finally accept this. You stop defending every decision. You stop explaining every boundary. You stop chasing people who have already decided to misunderstand you. And most importantly, you stop asking permission to become the person you were meant to be. Because your life was never supposed to be a performance for an audience. You were not born to spend every waking moment trying to receive applause from people who are busy fighting their own battles. The real question is not, will they approve of me? The real question is, can I respect myself when nobody does? That is where true inner strength begins. Before we go any further, take a moment and ask yourself something honestly. How much of your life have you been living for other people's approval? If these words are speaking to something you have experienced, don't just listen and move on. Stay with me until the end. Because the next few lessons may change the way you see rejection, criticism, relationships, and even your own worth. And if you believe that becoming stronger begins with mastering your own mind, consider subscribing to the channel. Not for motivation that disappears tomorrow, but for ideas that can quietly change the way you live. Because sometimes, one truth heard at the right moment can save you years of living the wrong life. So stay until the end. There is one final lesson I want you to remember, and it may be the most important one of all. Part 3. The moment you start saying no. One of the most powerful words you will ever learn to say is also one of the smallest. No. Not because you stopped caring, but because you finally started caring about yourself. For years, you may have believed that being a good person meant always being available, always answering, always helping, always forgiving, always understanding. And whenever you said no, guilt immediately followed. You worried that someone would think you were selfish. You feared they would become angry. You imagined they might leave. So you said yes, even when you were exhausted, even when you had your own problems, even when helping someone meant abandoning yourself. But eventually, something inside you becomes tired. Not physically, something deeper. Your soul becomes exhausted from constantly betraying itself just to keep other people comfortable. And one day, you finally say no. Something strange happens. The world does not collapse. The sky does not fall. But some people become angry. And this is where you discover a painful truth. Some people did not love your kindness. They loved your availability. They did not respect your generosity. They simply became comfortable with receiving it. The moment you establish a boundary, they may accuse you of changing. And they are right. You have changed. But perhaps you were never becoming worse. Perhaps you were simply becoming honest. The Stoics understood that virtue does not mean allowing everyone to take from you. Wisdom requires knowing what deserves your attention and what does not. Marcus Aurelius did not spend his life trying to make every person happy. He focused on living according to his principles. That is the difference between seeking approval and living with integrity. When you live for approval, your boundaries constantly move depending on who is standing in front of you. But when you live by principles, you can remain calm even when someone dislikes your decision. And this is where freedom begins. You stop saying yes because you are afraid. You start saying yes because you genuinely choose to. You stop helping because you need to be needed. You help because it reflects the person you choose to be. And you stop apologizing for protecting your peace. Remember this. A boundary does not mean you hate someone. It means you finally understand that your life has value too, And when you stop sacrificing yourself to keep everyone comfortable, you may discover something beautiful. The people who truly belong in your life will not require you to disappear in order to stay. Part 4. When people start leaving. There is a painful stage that nobody prepares you for when you stop living for other people. You may lose people, not because you became cruel, not because you stopped caring, but because you stopped being easy to control. When you begin setting boundaries, saying no, and choosing your own path, some people will suddenly become uncomfortable with you. They may say, "You've changed. You're not the same anymore. You used to be more understanding." And for a while, you may wonder if they're right. You may lie awake at night questioning yourself. Maybe I really am becoming selfish. Maybe I should go back. Maybe keeping everyone happy was easier. But then you realize something. They are not always mourning the person you became. Sometimes they are mourning the version of you who always said yes, the version who tolerated disrespect, the version who apologized even when you were hurt, the version who abandoned his own needs just to prevent someone else from being disappointed. And this is where loneliness can become part of your transformation, because when you stop chasing people, there is suddenly silence. When you stop explaining yourself, there are fewer conversations. When you stop accepting everything, some relationships begin to disappear. And that silence can feel terrifying. But do not rush to fill it. Sit with it. Because loneliness is not always a sign that you made the wrong decision. Sometimes, loneliness is simply the space created when an old version of your life is disappearing. The Stoics understood the importance of being able to stand alone, not because human connection is meaningless, but because your inner stability should not depend entirely on whether someone stays. People will come. People will leave. Some will misunderstand you. Some will appreciate you. Some will love you deeply. And some will only love you when you are convenient for them. You cannot control which category someone belongs to, but you can control whether you abandon yourself just to keep them. So if people begin walking away after you become more honest, don't immediately chase them. Let them go. Watch what happens. The right people will not demand that you become smaller so they can remain comfortable. They will respect your boundaries. They will accept your growth. They will allow you to become stronger without making you feel guilty for it. And one day, you will look back and understand something that once seemed impossible. Losing certain people was not the tragedy. The tragedy would have been losing yourself just to keep them. Because sometimes, the greatest act of self-respect is not holding on. It is finally having the courage to let go. Part 5. When you finally choose yourself. Eventually, something changes. Not outside of you. Inside. You wake up one morning and realize that you no longer feel the need to explain yourself to everyone. You no longer panic when someone misunderstands you. You no longer chase people who pull away. You no longer feel guilty for protecting your peace. And perhaps the most beautiful change of all, you become comfortable being yourself. This is what happens when you stop living for approval. You begin making decisions based on your values instead of your fears. You choose peace over proving a point. You choose discipline over temporary pleasure. You choose your purpose over someone else's expectations. And suddenly, life becomes quieter, but stronger. You begin to understand what the Stoics were trying to teach all along. Your freedom begins where your dependence on other people's opinions ends. Marcus Aurelius knew that people would judge him. He knew that some would misunderstand him. He knew that he could not control what others thought. So he focused on something far more important: who he was when nobody was watching. That is the question you should ask yourself too. Who are you when nobody applauds? Who are you when nobody agrees? Who are you when the person you wanted to impress walks away? Because that person is the real you. And maybe this entire journey was never about becoming someone stronger. Maybe it was about returning to the person you were before you became afraid of being rejected. The child who wanted to explore. The person who had dreams before other people's opinions became louder than his own voice. The person who believed his life could mean something. You do not need everyone to understand you. You do not need everyone to approve of you. You do not need to prove your worth every single day. Your worth is not determined by applause. It is revealed by the way you live when there is no audience. So from this day forward, let people misunderstand you if they must. Let them disagree. Let them walk away. Let them think you are different. You do not have to fight every misunderstanding. You simply have to remain faithful to your principles. Because there comes a point when protecting your peace becomes more important than protecting your image. And when you finally reach that point, something inside you becomes almost impossible to destroy. You become free. Not because everyone finally loves you, but because you finally stopped needing them to. And that is the moment your life truly begins to change. Conclusion. The deepest lesson is simple. You cannot control what people think of you, but you can control who you become. Stop measuring your worth by attention, praise, or approval. Learn to say no without guilt. Protect your boundaries. Choose your values even when nobody understands you. Starting today, ask yourself before every important decision, am I doing this because I truly want it, or because I'm afraid of disappointing someone? Then practice one small act of courage each day. Say no when you mean no. Stop over-explaining yourself and spend time becoming the person you respect. Remember, peace does not come when everyone finally accepts you. Peace comes when you finally accept yourself. If this message helped you see life differently, subscribe to the channel and support us. Your subscription gives me the motivation to keep creating deeper Stoic lessons that can help you become stronger, wiser, and more free. Thank you for taking the time to watch until the end of the video. See you in the next videos.